The door opened and Ryujin stood there with a smile on her face. Vian, morning babe. Vian greeted her before she quickly went over to the stairs like she was in a hurry. Surprisingly, you're late today, Ryujin told her, making her to stop on her tracks. Vian gave her a tired look. Oh, what do I tell you? Mom dragged me to one of those elite parties last night and we got back late, she said before she continued walking upstairs. Ryujin followed suit with a heavy sigh. We will be late for early class, so make it quick. The only thing I'm concerned about is I did not miss it. From second floor, she approached another staircase to the terrace, while Ryujin just stood there shaking her head in disappointment at this girl. Vian went to the fair-sized terrace of Ryujin's house. She leaned against the iron railing and took her face in both her hands, tilting her head. She let out a dreamy sigh, looking out at the view in front of her. In the house opposite to hers was a handsome man exercising on his room's outdoor terrace. He was buff, fair, and pretty tall. He wore AirPods in his ears and his t-shirt was tucked to his waist, exposing his muscled arms and torso. As he got up, he grabbed a water bottle and held it closer to his mouth. He lifted his head and began drinking the water. His throat moved like waves of the ocean with water sliding down. He closed his mouth and splashed the rest of the water on his face. It slid down his lips, chin, his neck to his chest, then his abs. It was all in slow motion. Vian swallowed, staring at her crush, the man she was crazy about. His name was Jungkook. He was Vian's best friend's neighbor. He shifted here only 6 months ago. Before that, Vian didn't even believe in love at first sight, because how could you fall in love with a person you saw for the first time? That was bullshit. But only until she saw him, and from the first day she laid eyes on him, she was completely swept off her feet. She knew all about him, all in the sense everything that other people knew, all that was public. He was single, he lived alone, he was not on any SNS app where she could tease him. It was nearly impossible to get his phone number, and he was a damn cop. God didn't even give her a chance, but this man had this girl around his fingers, and he did not even know. There was only 1 to 2 times she ever crossed paths with him, that too because Ryujin's and Jungkook's main gates were just one road away and straight opposite to each other. Vian would come at Ryujin's often to see Jungkook in the morning while he was at home before he'd leave for work. Even though they crossed paths, he never looked at her. She thought because for him she was just a random girl out there in his neighborhood, one of many. He wouldn't even notice her, and it would only make her more sad plus attracted to him. Ryujin, if you're done pleasing your eyes, let's go now. We're gonna be late. Ryujin's voice yanked Vian out of her thoughts. She walked over to Vian and stood behind her. Jungkook was also done exercising when he went inside his house. Vian let out a soft sigh and turned around to face Ryujin. Did you even hear what I said? Ryujin asked. Vian nodded with an eye roll. Yes, I heard you. And before making her way downstairs, she glanced back at Jungkook's house like every day for the last time before she'd start her day. They sat in the car, Vian at the driving seat and Ryujin next to her. You know what, Ryu? Said Vian, grabbing Ryujin's attention, whose eyes were glued to her smartphone. What? She asked without lifting her head up. It's time I talked to him. Vian was now done every day, just watching him from afar and just dreaming about him. It wasn't going to work. It wasn't like he would come to her by the force of her gaze. She had to take a step now. Yeah, you say that every day, Ryujin said casually, still on her phone. No, this time for real. Because how long I'm gonna just be looking at him? What if he gets a girlfriend? Ryujin let out a sigh and finally stared at Vian. You know I don't understand you, because what if he already has a girlfriend? You don't even know him. No, he doesn't. Won't he bring her to the house if he had any? Ryujin got back on her phone. I don't know. Besides, he looks unapproachable. Looks like someone who'd be rejecting girls on a daily basis. It's fine, as long as he's rejecting them. Babe, if we go by this, he will be rejecting you too, soon. You should be boosting my confidence, Ru. Rujin chuckled. Plus, I'm not really kidding. He could really have a girlfriend. Just because he doesn't bring her to his house, we can be so sure he doesn't have any. We know nothing about him. He's your neighbor, a neighbor who doesn't talk to anyone and is a very private person. Rujin now made Vian more worried, because what if she was right? What if he really had a secret girl? She felt bad just by thinking of it. She had to let him know she shouldn't be stalling this anymore. She knew she couldn't directly confess to him, but she had to do something to get his attention. It was going for too long now. She didn't want to end up in a pathetic state. She didn't actually know what she was supposed to do to get his attention, but she was ready to do anything at this point. Her eyes on the road at front, and she saw Jungkook's jeep in front of her car. Her pupils dilated. "Isn't that Jungkook's car?" she asked to Rujin. Rujin lifted her gaze. "Yeah," she said, "it's him." A smirk grew on the edge of Vian's lips. "Watch me now." And all the vehicles stopped at the red light except for Vian's. "What are you doing?" Rujin flinched. "Stop the car, Vian," she shouted. And Vian hit Jungkook's car. Rujin jumped. "Are you crazy? You hit a cop's car? He's a police officer." "I know, babe." Vian winked while Rujin was losing her calm. A muscle itched in Jungkook's jaw as he harshly opened his car's door and went over to that idiot who just hit his car like a drunk at early in the morning. He knocked at the window softly at first. "Get your car on the side." His gravel voice made Vian shiver, not in fear or anything. It was the first time he ever talked to her, and that was that. "Rujin, we're doomed, Vian," Rujin said, frowning, but Vian still had the slightest smile on her face. Vian stopped her car on the side. "Relax, Ru." Rujin stared at her. "Exactly, I should be relaxed. I'm not the one who's driving. Apparently you are doomed, and yet you're sweating." "He's a cop," Rujin whispered. "He doesn't eat people, Ru, I promise." Rujin rolled her eyes in response. Another knock on the window, and Vian decided to just open the door when she did the same. She stepped down the car and faced him. She felt the whole world stop, looking at him from close. She felt so different in a good way. The feeling was indescribable. Her gaze locked with his dark eyes. "Oh, I'm sorry, officer," she frowned, well aware of the big-ass scratch he made on his car driving license. His voice was so velvety and gruff, it made her heart jump. Vian hesitantly turned around and took out her driving license from the car before she faced him again. She handed him the license, saying, "Are you going to fine me or something?" she asked in a soft voice. Received no reply, and while he was looking at her license, her gaze was fixed on his handsome face. He lifted his eyes and she flinched. How nervous did she get? He inched closer to her, and her heart almost stopped beating. She could feel the thud in her ear. She'd really pass out if he moved close another inch. He lifted the license in front of her to take it back. She swallowed and took it from his hand, her chest about to explode with the amount of butterflies were dancing there. "Focus on the road when you drive," he said closer to her face. She nodded slowly, totally lost. She hoped she did not look like a fool, but she would cry about that later. With that, he moved away and left. She got her senses back. "But your car?" She spoke, but he had already left. Even if he heard her, he never turned around. She breathed a long sigh like she dodged a bullet. Vian got back in the car, her expressions dazed. She was still processing all of that. "What's wrong?" Rujin asked. "I feel like he dislikes me," she replied. "What?" She quirked a brow. "He does not even know you enough to dislike you." "Does he have to?" Vian turned to her. "I just damaged his car, but he did not even ask for compensation." Was that to avoid further conversation? She could not help overthinking all that, because that was definitely not how a cop would deal with this situation. Rujin shook her head in disbelief. "Are you stupid, Vian?" she asked. "You should be happy he let you go." "Why? He did not want to talk to me?" "Talk what?" "You know," she shrugged, frowning. Rujin, you're thinking way too much. Vian sighed, resting her head on the back of the car seat. We're gonna be late, Vian. Vian let out another sigh. Vian, it's enough now, she said, gripping tightly on the steering wheel. He will talk to me and you'll see, she said confidently. Rujin shifted in her seat, glaring at Vian. Vian, look at me, she told her. Don't you dare do anything stupid. He's a very strict senior officer. Leave it on me, said Vian as she drove off. Vian, I'm serious. Just because he let you go this time does not mean he will always do the same. That's the thing, Rujin. I want to see what he will do next time. I'm skipping college today. Vian was dead. Why did he let her go just like that? To avoid the conversation or because of some other reason? If there was any other reason, what was it? She won't just sit calmly now after this. Rujin, fine, get yourself in trouble if you really enjoy that, she said and took a little pause, still annoyed. Keep me by your side, whatever you do, by the way. Vian laughed. No, I want to do it alone. Don't want you to get in trouble. Vian, she frowned. You have to be on the safe side in case I need your help, stupid. What are you even gonna do? I'm seriously scared now. Rujin knew Vian was a little crazy. I'll let you know, she said with a smile. Vian had handcuffs tied around her wrist and one of the detectives had dragged her into the police station. She was so confused by now and there were so many thoughts popping in her head. Would she even see Jungkook? Did she do right? Should she really have thought a little before doing this? Because as much as she knew, he was the captain and he wouldn't be talking to her. It would be some other cop. So what was all that for? But it was Jungkook's car. So she was expecting he would be the one interrogating her. She was too confused by now and kind of scared when she heard a familiar voice. Wait, and the cop who was dragging her in stopped where he was. She looked in the direction she heard the voice from and she saw Jungkook was walking towards them. She did not know why, but she felt so relieved as though he was a superhero who was going to save her. He did not even know her and she was expecting too much. He could really turn out to be a really cruel man. He wore the dark navy uniform and it looked so good on him, and more than that, he looked more intimidating. She gulped. What did she do? He asked the cop that was dragging her. Sir, she was breaking down your car. I told her to stop but she did not, and by the time I went there was already a crack in the windshield. She still did not stop. I had to arrest her. Vian lowered her gaze and pressed her lips together, well aware of Jungkook's gaze on her after what he heard. What the hell was going on in her mind? Why did she do that? It was definitely too much. She should have done maybe something else. She did not lift her gaze because she could not face him right there. Of course he would be very angry and confused. She felt his hand on her elbow when he dragged her towards him. His grip was slightly tight and her eyes widened when she hit the side of his body. I'll handle her, he said to the cop. Vian's heartbeat sped up and her eyes wide open. What was it? The cop was as befuddled as Vian as herself. Sir, do you know her? You can go back to work now, he said sternly. Oh, yes, sir, okay. With that, he moved away from there, but Vian could feel so many eyes on her. The other detectives sitting at their desk, all of them had moved their eyes on them the moment Jungkook grabbed her arm. Why? Maybe because it was something new what they were seeing. Jungkook, what is so interesting to watch here? Jungkook's icy voice made them flinch and they withdrew their gaze, focusing back at what they were doing. Whoa, he had the same effect as those strict teachers in school. Home students would themselves on saying. Yeah, he gave the same vibe. Vian sat in the chair in the interrogation room, her tied up hands resting on the table. She repositioned herself in the chair several times while she was alone there. Never had she ever thought she'd end up in an interrogation room in a police station. What had she been doing? The door opened, she blinked and her gaze drifted to the door. Jungkook stepped inside. He did not wear his coat and was now only in his white shirt that accentuated his muscles sharply and his dark navy tie tucked to his collar perfectly. She blinked tightly, reminding herself she was in trouble and not on a date with him. But for some reason, she was not scared of him, not even a little bit, but the aura in that room was definitely anxious. He rolled his sleeves up to his elbows, making his aura more intimidating. "What's your problem with my Jeep?" he asked, walking around the interrogation table. "Do you not like it?" Her brows shot up. She asked. "Tell me." "No, officer, she did not know what to say. She had only thought about talking to him, but she had not thought what exactly was she going to talk about, and now she was all lost." "It is what? Why did you try to break it down?" The way now he was asking her question, it felt like she'd committed a serious crime, and now soon she was going to get a life sentence. All of this was now kind of making her scared. "I'm sorry, officer," she said in a low voice, her gaze on her hands. "Sorry does not fix things. Do you know the consequences of your action?" She gulped. "I can pay you for the..." "You cannot go out damaging people's property, then pay for it and expect it's forgotten." He cut her off. "It does not work like this." "So, are you gonna put me in jail?" Her brows drew down. He rested his palms on the table, his gaze locked with hers. As he moved closer, her heart began pounding again. "Maybe I won't," he said. "If you just tell me why did you do that." She was looking deep into those dark pools of eyes of him, and all she was thinking was, what was she doing? She should just tell him the truth. Even if he rejected her, the least it would do was save her from this trouble. It's because it wasn't hard to say. She finally had the chance because he was asking her. If she could put herself in danger just to talk to him, she couldn't just confess. That was easier. Say it. "I had a crush on you and I wanted to get your attention." She lowered her gaze, afraid of eye contact, afraid of rejection, and the confusion on his face, if there was any. She did not look up, she did not know what he was thinking, and she did not even know what the expression on his face said because she couldn't face him. She sensed he dragged the other chair closer to hers and sat in it. Her heartbeat had gone in high gear. "I did not really expect you would take a step anytime soon." She immediately looked up at him. What did he say? "What do you mean?" She was dazed. "What do you think? I'll have a cute stalker of my own and I won't even know?" he said, making her heart to skip several beats. "I'm a detective. I have my eyes everywhere." "Stalker? Don't you peek from your friend's house into mine every morning to see me?" Fuck. She felt like her heart had stopped beating at all. She was too stunned to speak. "You really knew?" Her voice was a low whisper. "Of course I did." God, was it a dream? She did not know if she was happy or embarrassed or nervous or what was it. Apparently all feelings mixed up. "You knew all along?" "Yes." Oh dear God. Her cheeks were burning by now, and without even having to see them, she knew already they must be turning into red tomatoes. Oh shit. "Do you think I was some crazy creep?" She lowered her gaze. He laughed. She did not look up. Her face was definitely red. "After 2 months into shifting in my house, I had already got a gym room, but for exercising, I'd still go to the outdoor terrace instead," he said. "So you can guess what I thought about you." She felt her heart thud dully when again she lifted her gaze. Huh? She was stunned again. He would come to terrace just so she could see him? No, it was a dream. It can't be real. "Yeah. What does that mean?" She knew, but it was unbelievable. "You know what that means." Oh God, she hid her face when her hands and the handcuffs clinked in contact with each other. She knew she appeared very stupid right now, but she was really overwhelmed. "Can I open them for you?" She stared at him dazed. "What?" "The handcuffs." She stared at them, did not even realize they were there the whole time. He took out the keys from his pocket before he grabbed her hands. The moment he touched her, she felt sensations in her whole body. He unlocked the handcuffs and placed them on the table before he looked up at her again. "You're crazy," he laughed slightly. And oh God, he looked so good when he laughed, and she did not even bother to think what he said was a compliment or opposite. "But I like you." She felt her breathing stop. Really? Her voice came out breathy and low. She could not believe it. She'd never expected he'd like her. Yes, a smile was sent to her lips. It felt like a dream, totally unbelievable, totally unreal. And it was really a dream she'd never want to wake up because it was the best. The feeling was amazing no matter how nervous and embarrassed she felt. The feeling of happiness was way more than that. Even after what I just did, she thought it was too stupid. He laughed again. She could look at him all day while he laughed. Yeah, it was the crazy part I'm talking about. She bit her lips as again shame flashed on her face. Now she had the answer why he let her go in the morning, and she was overthinking it way too much. Now that everything that was happening was still believable because she was still feeling like she was in a beautiful dream. Of course it would take her hours to finally swallow the truth that the man she had a crush on for months actually liked her back. I still can't believe it, she said with a shy smile plastered on her face that she could not take off. I cannot believe this is happening for real. The smile was glued on her lips and she knew she was blushing hard. What should I do to make you believe then? She looked up at him, and the way he was looking at her with his midnight gaze, it was making her feel things in her body. As though he was staring deep into her soul, he could see all her flaws and still accept her. It's fine, she said, blushing. Eventually I'll believe it. He stared down and with his foot he pulled the chair leg which moved Vian's chair more closer to him. She softly gasped, her heartbeat pounding again, and she felt millions of butterflies as her knees were his thighs and he was too close to her now. The musky scent of his drugged her. Would you like to go on a date with me? His voice sent shivers through her. She blushed hard. It was like a dream come true. Yes, I would love to. She could say it 100 times if she had. Okay then, I will see you in the evening. She wanted to scream and dance. She was that much happy. But right now she had to act cool and behave. Okay, but that big smile never left her lips. Where should I pick you up from? I will visit my friend's house in the evening. She was too excited and it was hard to hide it now at 6. Yeah, okay. Okay, she replied, still blushing. You should probably go home now. Part of her did not want to leave, but on the other hand, she wanted to scream in happiness at the top of her lungs. Plus, the closeness between them was making it hard for her to breathe. His gaze was it was driving her crazy. Yes, I should. He moved his chair away to leave the space for her to stand up. She slowly stood up. See you later then, she drawled. He nodded. Also, now that you have all my attention, don't do anything crazy like this again. He joked, making her to laugh slightly. Fine, I won't. And a smile grew on his lips. Vian was jumping like a frenzy in her bed while Rujan sat right beside her, and she was totally happy and excited too for her friend. Oh my god, Rujan, I swear to god, it still feels like a dream, she said as she squatted down, hugging the pillow tightly closer to her face. Her face was red, her heart was full, and her cheeks hurt from smiling constantly. She felt tingling in her body every time she replayed the conversation between her and Jungkook, and when he pulled the chair close, oh gosh. For real, and I can hear you 100 times telling me again because it really feels like a dream, she said. Not that I doubt my pretty friend's charm, but I genuinely thought he was unapproachable, so he won't be interesting. Right? Because I thought the same, but oh Ryujin, he's such a dream. He's so good, he's so amazing. He could be sitting in front of you and talking and you still feel like he's not real. He's that perfect. I know, right? I'm so happy for you, babe. Vian squeaked again and hugged Ryujin in happiness. They were at a rooftop cafe that was empty, and Vian assumed it must be reserved. Jungkook took her over to a red and black checkered table where a candle burned and a couple of ice-cold beers waited. Her heart was beating so fast when Jungkook pulled the chair out for her. She gave him a soft smile and sat down before he hopped on the chair across the table. He looked so handsome in that black shirt and white linen pants. Being honest, he looked good in everything. Even now, all of it felt like a fever dream. They stayed with her crush. It was dreamy and magical. "What would you like to eat?" he asked, and his beautiful face was glowing in the candlelight. By eating, she remembered she had had nothing since the morning because she was on cloud nine and her appetite was gone. Anything you like?" A slight smile curled his lips. "Pizza, because they make the best of them here." She felt good when he shared that with her. "Yeah, sure, perfect." The waiter appeared with a large pan pizza and placed it on the center of the table on a rack. "Enjoy your meal, sir." "Ma'am," he said and placed a huge slice on each of their plates. Ryan nodded. "Jungkook, thank you." The waiter bowed and left the table. Ryan sat still, confused of what she should do now. Should she start eating or wait for him to eat first? Jungkook lifted his beer. "What's wrong? Do you not like pizzas? Would you like something else?" "We can order something else." No, she said quickly. She sighed. He put the glass of beer on table and moved his chair closer, staring intently at her. "Jungkook, what's it? Are you alright?" She sighed again. "Okay, so I'm sorry." He frowned as she went on. "It's just that I'm a little nervous because I made a fool out of myself in the morning, and also because I used to peek inside your house." And she was talking when he let out a laugh. Even his laugh sounded so perfect, but she frowned. "Jungkook, I know as a police officer I should not encourage this, but trust me," he said, placing his hand on hers on the table. She swallowed within her as her heart sped up. "I found it really cute whatever you were doing, and generally I'm a patient man, but I was really impatient for you to finally talk to me." "Really?" "Yes, it wasn't usual for me to fall for anyone. I was mostly focused on my career because I love my job, that I did not really get the time to have any love interest, but you drew my attention like metal does to a magnet." She smiled, feeling tingling in her stomach. All of it really sounded so unreal. There were fireworks in her heart. "Jungkook, you're the most beautiful thing that ever happened to me," he said softly. She giggled, and again she could feel her cheeks burning, and she knew she was turning into a tomato, but who cared? She was on the top of the world. "You make me the happiest," she replied, her eyes full of love. "Jungkook, I'm glad to know." She smiled and caught a smile more warm in return from him. They were looking at each other, all lost, while Ryan's stomach made a noise. She slightly flinched. Oh God, now this was her punishment for being so irresponsible and not eating at all whole day. She pulled free her hand, placing it on the smoke. He laughed slightly and she could not even face him. I mean, it was fine, but it was their first date, for God's sake. The heavens were not on her side. She cursed under her breath and he laughed again. "Actually, it's awkward." "No, it is not," he said. "Have you not eaten?" Yeah, what was she supposed to say? She was dancing and screaming all day that she did not feel like eating at all, because apparently his words made her full already. She curled her brows, very embarrassed. She looked up at him. He looked amused. "Yeah, I was very happy, so She lowered her gaze. She felt him standing up as he dragged the chair next to her and sat closer, his hand on the back of her chair. Her heart sped up faster. She looked up at him. "This is my favorite pizza. I'm sure you'll love it. Why don't you try and tell me how you like it?" Although she was really embarrassed, but he was amazing to make her feel so comfortable. She felt like she'd known him for ages. The date did not feel like their first date at all. The pie was thick, so she used a knife and a fork before she moved it closer to her mouth. After swallowing, she smiled brightly. It was literally the best pizza she's ever had. "It's so delicious," she gushed, very much impressed. "Tastes like heaven." His lips also curled into a warm smile, like he was happy she liked it. Oh, he was so amazing. She felt so lucky to be there with him. She took another bite and moved it to his mouth. "Let's sit together." His eyes glued on her, making her feet tingling as he leaned and took the bite. She smiled. They ate, laughed, talked, and had the best time of their lives. To Vian, it did not feel like their first date at all. She was very much comfortable just in a short time because he was amazing, so very amazing. And she was sure she'd enjoy all the other days because spending time with him was the most beautiful experience for her.